All right, everyone. Welcome to a very special episode of Last Take. We aren't doing our typical weekly episode this week because it is upcoming the end of the year, the end of 2020, one of the weirdest, most unusual years of our lives to date. Before we start, just want to make sure that you guys hit the subscribe button, you comment, tell us anything that we missed during this year, anything you guys want to talk about, and we look forward to hearing that. So, starting with January, I don't think anything notable really happened in the month of January 2020. Things seemed like it was going to be a relatively normal year. NFL playoffs going on, NBA season going normal, NHL season going normal. So we progress right into February, where we see the Chiefs beat the San Francisco 49ers in the Super Bowl. And we kind of run into this potential dynasty, the one that we were kind of expecting to start. But the Chiefs got their first and potentially the first of many. So things kind of seem normal then. So, I mean, Nick, what were you thinking when the Chiefs won the Super Bowl?
Yeah, I mean, I was like, seems like forever ago, but it was still this year somehow. It was just the classic, back and forth Super Bowl. Chiefs started off slow, but ended up, coming through. Just kind of the standard of what we're expecting from the Chiefs now is even when they're not playing well, that Mahomes will just turn it on at some point and they'll win the game. But yeah, that was the last time, little did we know, that things were really going to seem normal in the sports world.
Yeah, it was just kind of like, it was, like you said, it was like the last time things felt normal. Like I remember we hit this, our whole friend group hit the, what was it, the coin toss? I think we all bet tails. And like,
Yep.
I remember being so hyped about that. And that was beginning of February. And then we kind of headed, before we even got into March, probably one of the craziest days. And it's still weird to say considering how the rest of this year has gone, but it was so cryptic and so weird. It just felt, it didn't feel real. Was the death of Kobe Bryant. And, people remember that day. I remember getting texts that day and being like, no, this isn't real. Like seeing that like TMZ reported it. And it was like, okay, like maybe they have their facts wrong. Maybe something's off or the information isn't right. And I just remember, gathering around the TV that entire day, just hoarding it, just looking for more information, just wanting it to not be real. And, unfortunately it was.
So I'm pretty sure Kobe dying actually might have happened before the Super Bowl, but just in my
You're
brain,
right.
the way this year went, like the Super Bowl feels normal, and like Kobe dying kind of felt like the first like event of 2020 that like let us know it wasn't going to be a normal year. But yeah, so regardless, for me, just being our age, 23, Kobe's death hit me harder than any other celebrity death has, and it's not even close for me. Like obviously there's other like legendary names that have passed, even people we grew up with, who passed on. Mac Miller was a big one too, but none of them hit me in the way that Kobe did. And I don't really know what it was. I think it was just that he was a guy that you anticipated that you were going to be hearing from for decades and decades and decades, seeing him on, TNT talking to Shaq or LeBron, decades after they've all been playing, telling stories about their careers. And to have him gone so soon, like you said, my first thought or hope was that maybe TMZ had it wrong. I remember actually scrolling like past it on Twitter and not even realizing that's what I had read until we got a text in our group chat saying that Kobe had died. And then I was like, wait, did I just read that on Twitter? Like my brain couldn't even process the information. And then, when it came out that obviously it wasn't just him, his daughter was in the helicopter. Just, still one of the craziest days of the year. We had no idea it would end up being kind of par for the course for 2020, but just one of the saddest days I've had in a long time.
Yeah, I think the thing with Kobe was that he felt immortal. I think that when it's like a really big athlete or a big name or someone that you just grow up with, and someone who has such amazing success, it's hard to kind of picture them, something tragic happening to them. And it's, it just wasn't it was the last thing that was ever on anyone's mind. So, it was really just a tragedy, and, kind of just kicked off what the rest of 2020 was. And then we kind of moved on to March, and we found ourselves in the beginning of the coronavirus. And I mean, I remember, Nick, that first night when Rudy Gobert tested positive for coronavirus, and it was like, oh God, like this is actually happening right now.
Yeah, I'm not even gonna lie. So like when you go back to like late February, early March, it was like a thing that was like kind of a news topic, but like no offense, and I'll maintain this stance. Like 99% of the time, the things in the news that they make out to be the next big thing is just for clicks and fear porn, and like it's not actually a big thing. So I was like, oh, this virus in China, oh, it's here, whatever. It's 2020. We're so medically advanced, like we're not gonna go into like an actual pandemic. So I remember like going to the bar like a week before everything kind of happened, and like the bartenders like giving us fist bumps saying happy coronavirus, we're ordering Coronas. It was kind of funny. Fast forward like 5 days to the Rudy Gobert NBA shutdown incident, and that's when it all became real. I remember we were sitting in my basement, which at the time was probably something we shouldn't have been doing, but that was like kind of the last time we were like together as things started to unfold. And it was the NBA getting shut down, Tom Hanks test positive, and in a matter of literally 12 hours, it went from life as normal to this is going to be the craziest year of our lives.
Yeah, and it was, and to keep it to like a sports context, it was the NBA shutting down first, I believe. March Madness and like their conference tournaments were already being shut down, or like they're saying, oh, we're not participating. And then it was like Duke withdrew, from like the tournament, and then like they just canceled like the whole thing. And then it was MLB spring training, and at that time we thought, okay, it's gonna be 2 weeks. We're still going to have March Madness. Or no, they canceled entirely. Well, okay, the NBA is going to be back in 2 weeks. Spring training is going to pick up back again in maybe, April, May or something like that. And then it just kind of kept going. It was just kind of like, oh, okay. It started to make, it made sense at the time, obviously, and it still makes sense. But it was just like, okay, well, you clearly can't go back. Like, we have no idea what's going on right now. So then we entered the life without sports phase of 2020, and that was just like it felt like what retirement would be, like if when I'm 65, hopefully retired. It kind of felt like that, but I feel like I would have sports to fall back onto. So I felt like this kind of wave of just like, what am I supposed to do now? Because everyone was working from home. You finished at 5:00, and it was just kind of like, well, I can't really go work out. There's no sports on to go watch. And it was just kind of like, well, I guess we'll sit here,
I don't like want to be dramatic at all, because like I know like this pandemic has affected literally millions of people in horrible ways, whether it's losing a loved one, losing your job, your business, whatever it is. But losing sports was like crazy. Like it's just I know you're the same way. Like I don't know what else. I don't do anything else. I really don't. Like I spend time with like family and friends, but like half that time or more I'm watching sports. I'm betting on sports. Like you go into work, like I don't know how people who don't watch sports do it. Like if you talk to someone that's not like your good friend, it's like a mile to coins or like a coworker, like I'm talking sports to you. Like it's just literally my livelihood. Like I don't know how else to like relate to people, what to talk about, like what to think about. Like I'm so one dimensional as a person. Like all I have is like sports. Like I remember like that week of work when it was like, oh, we might like, when things got real with Corona, I was wondering like, am I going to be able to go to the Yankees opening day game I have tickets for in 2 weeks? Not, is MLB going to play this year? Like I remember that work, like the day after Rudy Gobert, it was like, all right, conference tournaments are going to go on and March Madness is going to go on, but there's going to be no fans. And Rutgers was supposed to play the noon game that Thursday. So I was going to watch on lunch, like on my laptop, like while I had an hour break. And like Rutgers got pulled off the court in warm-ups. Like it was just like everything was happening so fast, where it was like literally a 24-hour period where it was like things go as normal, then it's like, all right, no fans, and it's like, all right, sports are gone. And then that's how it was for the next, 2-3 months.
Yeah, no, I totally agree with you. The life without sports, like I always think like there's a mindset, and I think it's like when it comes to like I think I froze for a second. When it comes to like the gym, or when it comes to like I don't know, like watching TV, or when it comes to like eating healthy, like sometimes you just need a break from things. You need to step away and just kind of regroup. Clearly, sports is not one of those because we got a break from it, obviously because of the pandemic, and I went nuts. Like I didn't realize how much I need, and I think a lot of people need a distraction. You know what I mean? Like it's bigger than just a game to watch and to just like kind of like bet on, talk about, and stuff like that. It literally is a distraction. Like at the end of the day, right now when we come home from work and everything, like it's just like, okay, cool. What game is on so I can unwind, so I can forget about the day and kind of regroup and get ready to start the next. Like it literally is a distraction. Like when people say like, oh, it's just a sport, it's just a game, like it doesn't matter. No, it's a way to kind of break up your life, and when it's going and when that literally is taken away, especially during a time like this, it's hard to kind of find like that medium. And it's like, okay, now what do I replace this with? I remember I started going on like hour-long walks and listening to like different podcasts and stuff just because like I need to physically get out of the house and like kind of like find something to do and put my focus towards.
The crazy thing about that though was like, of all the things in the lockdown, like working from home, not going to the office, not going to the gym, like not being able to go out, like not even really seeing anyone for those first couple weeks at least, or months, outside of your immediate family, like all of those things, I maintain I would have been completely fine mentally if sports were on. Like if you would have locked me in, because that's kind of how it is now to a degree. I mean, definitely things have definitely picked back up. Like, restaurants close at 10 and everything. Everyone's kind of still trying to limit contact, but like sports are on. So like I'm mentally like all there. And like you said it, like people, when they say it's more, it's just a game, it's more than that. Like everything else in your life I touched on before, like your job, your family, your friends, whatever it may be, those are all things in your control that like weigh on your mind in different ways. And like you have to put like effort into them and like make sure like you're maintaining those relationships and whatever it is. Like sports, like that's just out there. That's something you're watching. Like you're emotionally invested in it, but you have no control over it. I think there's something kind of healing about that where it's something you care about, but at the same time, it's something you have absolutely no control over. So to not have that for months on end, when I couldn't tell you the last time I went a day without watching live sports, it was crazy.
Yeah, and moving past that like a little bit, and just kind of to touch on like another big thing that happened in the year, and just kind of keeping like it is bigger than sports to a degree. Is everything that happened with like the social justice movement this year. Like there was a huge culture movement. And you saw a lot of athletes speak up and kind of take charge and saying, hey, we're not playing unless like you guys really make an initiative for us, and for each other. And I've always maintained the point that I'm okay, more than okay actually, with athletes using their voice, using their platform to take a stand, because like I said, if you think that sports are more than a game, then you can't let like culture like be stopped, because you can't be like, oh, they're just an athletes, but then you can't have like the same argument where it's like, oh, it's just a game. Like you have to realize the cultural power of sports and of athletes. So I was really happy to see that a lot of athletes like really stepped up during that social justice movement.
Yeah, no, it was definitely dismissed.
But coming back to sports, and when we kind of started to get them back, Nick, this is the thing that I think we forgot about, was when there was no sports, it was probably about a month and a half in, because I think it started in April, was The Last Dance.
Yes.
The Michael Jordan documentary that I think everyone sat down in front of their TV because there was nothing else going on and watched. We watched the greatest dynasty in the history of sports from beginning to end, and saw some of the greatest stories. We got amazing memes out of it. So I don't know. I was so happy when The Last Dance came on every Sunday. I was literally like, I watched it like a sports game,
Yeah.
like literally like it was a game going on. And it was so nice just to have something back, that was just like, this is awesome.
That's such a big part of sports for me too, especially like at that time when like we were lacking like the physical togetherness of like actually being able to see people and come into contact with people, to at least get something where everyone else is watching at the same time, like talking about it in group chats, live tweeting, and like knowing that that was something you had to to make conversation about. That was awesome. So you're 100% right. That was like huge. That was like the one of the biggest things that like bridged us from no sports back until they came back a little bit.
Yeah, and then ESPN tried to just run off those other documentaries. Like I remember the what was it, the longest, Long Gone Summer. I didn't,
Yeah,
I wound up not watching that one.
it
But
sucked. It
yeah,
sucked. They
yeah,
didn't even mention that they were just roided out until like the last 15 minutes of the documentary.
yeah. I couldn't watch that night, and then I remember you guys talking about. I'm like, it's not even worth my time.
It was basically a Mark McGuire hype documentary, and they just had a couple scenes of Sammy Sosa in, and then 5 minutes where they mentioned they were just both absolutely loading up on steroids.
Yeah, but those what was it? It was 5 weeks of The Last Dance because it was 2 episodes a night,
Mm-hmm.
10 total episodes. So those 5 weeks, it was literally like, this is awesome. I get to watch sports again. I don't care if it's stuff that I could look up. If I could probably find these, like, I mean, most of it was behind the scenes footage, but like you could find all those stats. I'm sure Scottie Pippen has said some of the stuff he said in interviews. I'm sure Michael Jordan has said some of the stuff. I'm sure Phil Jackson said some of the stuff. But to see it all compilated together, shockingly, ESPN did an amazing job with it. So I was so happy just to have something to watch during that time. And I think that was one of the big highlights of sports of 2020, even though it had nothing to do with like current games and everything.
Yeah, that's the first time since like 2015 I will actually say good job, ESPN. You did good on that one.
And I know you're a LeBron guy, but in my mind, watching all that, um, that Michael Jordan stuff, seeing all the clips, it solidified him as the GOAT for me. I don't know about you. I hate how people have this argument all the time. Michael Jordan looks like LeBron, and you can have this argument until the year 3000. So there's no point to do it in this video. But for me, it was just like, all right, this guy clearly has an awesome mentality. And LeBron and Michael Jordan were already like right here for me, so I just put him over the edge like just a little bit.
For me, like I was gonna say, like for people our age too, like we didn't grow up watching Jordan. So like that was like, obviously you see clips and you hear stories, but like that was kind of my first look at like what Michael Jordan was like actually all about. So yeah, for me, like he was definitely the coolest player of all time, like most badass. Like if you wanted like a mentality like of a player, it would be Michael Jordan. For me, LeBron is still like a little bit more of a complete player, but in terms of
Yeah,
like looking back, when you look back at both these guys' careers and say like who was more awesome, like it's gonna be Michael Jordan. I'm sorry, it just is.
yeah, I agree, and I think just watching all that, seeing what a competitor he was, since we didn't grow up with that, was just something that was so cool, and something that if it wasn't happening during that time, I think probably could have been like lost in the mix of like playoffs or whatever sport it would have been, whatever time it
Yep.
would have been released at. So granted, I'm kind of glad it came out when it did because you really got to see like a really awesome sports story.
Yep,
And again, it got us through. It got us through 5 more weeks.
for sure.
But then, life kind of adjusted back to normal during the summer months, and we kind of started to see sports coming back without fans. I know Nick, you kind of have a strong take on like what you feel about like fans, no fans, and stuff like that. Like how sports are with or without them.
Yeah, so like I saw, especially early on, people being like, "These aren't even worth watching without fans." Like I don't like it's not interesting. Like first of all, fuck you for that. Like I was desperate for sports. I literally said when MLB was negotiating, and there was really a good, couple weeks where I thought they weren't going to get a deal done just because of how incompetent both sides were. But there were people like, "Oh, I don't want to watch if it's X amount of games." I was like, I'll watch a 5-game season on the moon if that's what they're gonna play. You know what I'm saying? Like, so I was so desperate for sports back. Looking back on it now, especially now seeing certain NFL teams have like some fans in the building, and the NLCS World Series they have limited fans. It definitely makes a huge difference, and it sucks. I really, really hope that we get fans back in all 4 sports in 2021, at least a limited capacity. But to me, that if that was what had to be done to get sports back, I'm glad they did it, because if they would have just waited until whenever they could have fans again and not had sports the rest of the year, I would have been absolutely crushed.
Yeah, I mean, I've always been on the side. I love being at a game, but I'm not really too concerned. Like I love a good atmosphere, but for the most of the seasons and the NBA, I don't think fans really make that much of a difference. Even in the NBA, I think they make a cooler difference in like March Madness or something like that. So like the only place I felt like it was missing was baseball, and it was a shortened season anyway. And we got mostly some fans for the playoffs, like you said. So I was never like, oh, we can't do it without fans. What's the point? Like, no, that's absolutely ridiculous. Like, play the games. There's no one in the stands. They wound up doing like the cardboard cutouts. I don't know whose idea that was. I actually think it started with the Mets. I remember them being one of the first teams that actually do that. And I was like, that's a great idea. Like, it still kind of looks like there's fans there. Like, it's not throwing me off that much. And it's kind of funny.
Trying to make a quick buck before they sold the team, but yeah.
Yeah, for what it's worth, absolutely ridiculous that they made money off of that. like off that idea. You should have just put that in as like a tip of the cap to fans who are like watching and everything, going through a pandemic. But whatever. I thought that was really fun. They pumped in the crowd noise. It really didn't make too much of a difference to me watching from home. So sports with or without fans, I was good with whatever you needed to do to get it back.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, and then the NBA kind of had I think the NBA did an amazing job coming together, eliminating teams, not even bringing all the teams back when they did decide to come back and do it in the bubble. I've said it before. I think Adam Silver is a really good commissioner, but I know some of our friends are like saying, "Oh no, he's a players commissioner," which I agree with. But I do think that's kind of what makes him such a good commissioner. But he did an amazing job handling bringing the NBA to the bubble, and obviously the Lakers walking away champions from that.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I'm not a huge NBA fan, but I agree. Adam Silver is by far the best commissioner in the four major sports right now. And most of it is because the other three are completely incompetent at their jobs. But I think he actually has his finger on the pulse of what can help our sport and our league grow. And the bubble was pretty much the best thing he could have done.
Yeah. And I thought the playoffs were still pretty good. I mean, the NBA playoffs always suck. But
the NBA playoffs are I have people arguing about this. Like the NBA playoffs, the first two rounds are essentially formalities. Like, how many times do you have a team like the Heat beating the Bucks? When like the Bucks, I'm sorry, like aren't even that good to begin with. Like I know they're the one seed and everything, but like the NBA matters from the conference finals on. Like the regular season and like the beginning of the playoffs, essentially meaningless.
Yeah, it was really cool to see the Heat. I think that was the only thing that made me watch the finals for the most. Like if it was. Okay, maybe I shouldn't say that because if it was Lakers Bucks, I probably would have watched. But seeing like the Heat, like a team that had like you never thought was going to be in it, was like really cool. And I was like, okay, maybe they upset the Lakers. Like I wanted the Lakers to win, but it gave you some incentive to watch. So I thought that was really cool. But for the most part, you're right. The NBA playoffs are absolutely a joke. Even like the finals, like until like it's game 6 or 7, like it's just not good. Like I don't know. It's crazy to think because like there's so much talent and like they're like crazy athletes. Like basketball is exciting to watch, but for some reason it just isn't.
I'm not an NBA guy whatsoever, with the exception of the Knicks. The Knicks are like my child, who like I'm waiting for them to grow up and eventually one day get good, hopefully. But no, I'm sorry, I don't know. The NBA will just never do it for me. But still, the bubble was cool to watch. I watched a good amount of it. Still, just not my thing.
Yeah, I thought it was funny how like whenever there was like even like the slightest like bit of like potentially breaking the protocols, kicked them out. I think like 4 or 5 players got kicked out. One guy got kicked out for I forget his name. I think he was on the
guy on the Rockets, right?
It was the Rocket.
I don't remember his name. He was a starter. Yeah, he
was like Dennis House or something like that.
He banged one of the like test givers, like the woman, like So that was hilarious. And then also Lou Williams going to a strip club to pick up wings, and like that story actually getting like cleared is like laugh out loud funny.
I don't even know that whole story.
You didn't hear this? Oh, so
no, I remember like the vagueness of it. Like I saw like a headline. I was like, that's ridiculous.
So they had like I don't know what these rules were, but it was like guys were allowed to leave the bubble. Like this was early on, like before the playoffs started, and it was like guys were allowed to leave the bubble for certain reasons, and they would have to go through a certain amount of like days quarantining and
Yeah.
tests to come back. But the expectation was that they got cleared to leave for certain reasons and they couldn't be out like to eat or at a club or
I
something
think
like
that happened to Zion, right? I remember Zion had to leave for like 2 or 3 days, and he got cleared to come
He
back.
did. He left and came back. Yeah. So Lou Williams got cleared for like some kind of family reason, I think. And then there was a picture of him circulating at like a strip club in Atlanta. And then I think it was like his cousin at first was like, oh no, like that's an old picture. And it's like everyone's wearing masks. There's never been a point in our lifetimes where everyone was wearing masks indoors anywhere. So I was like, that's not true.
Clearly.
But Lou Williams cleared it that he was just there to pick up wings. Apparently the strip club had like really good wings. And it sounded like a bullshit excuse, but like it ended up like that was what he was doing.
Like it was like validated, and everyone's like
it was like
I don't want to believe you, but I guess
as like he was actually there to pick up food, which is outrageous.
Yeah, I mean, regardless, still think the NBA bubble was a great job, a job well done. Put it in Disney World, and I don't know, maybe they'll have to go back to it for the playoffs again. Depending on where we're at next year. But I thought it was great. I was happy to see the Lakers win too. But moving on to a place that isn't as incompetent, the MLB, and having to deal with that ridiculous fiasco of, I think it started at like 82 games, then it went down to like 40, then we were at like 50, then 70, and then we finally settled on 60. And like you said, this whole time, like, are we getting a season? Are we not? And just we hate Rob Manfred, but like just an absolute shit show performed by him.
Yeah, there was a real probably month-long period where I didn't think we were getting baseball at all. I just thought these two sides with Rob Manfred and Tony Clark leading the Players Association, I just thought they were both too incompetent to ruin this, to get the season going, and they almost were. I'll give them props that at least they did get it done, but I think it's pretty clear that they could have played more games and gotten an agreement, but I think 60 was the highest Manfred and the owners wanted to go to, so they were just negotiating for a certain point up until 60 was the amount that they were going to be able to get in. So kind of sucked, but listen, any baseball is better than no baseball, and I don't know how you could have watched, that season and the playoffs and not thought it was legitimate, because it absolutely was.
Yeah, and then you had players like Blake Snell just being like, "Oh, I'm not playing." I remember he was like streaming on Twitch and being like, "I'm not playing if like I'm not getting paid properly." So there was like that whole banter of like are the players going to accept whatever the MLB proposes and things like that. So it was just wait, am I frozen?
That video that Blake Snell posted was infuriating because he was hiding like eyes of like, yeah, no one knows like the long-term health implications, and he kept calling it the Rona, and it was like, look, nobody is blaming. I shouldn't say nobody, because a lot of people who didn't really understand what was going on were blaming the players for not taking a pay cut, not realizing they were defending billionaire owners who are 100 times as rich as the players. But everyone that's like a real baseball fan understood the players deserve to get compensated correctly, but don't come at us with like the long-term health effects. Like when there's millions of people out of work, losing their jobs, like you're in your 20s, you're healthy, like you're going to be fine. Like get paid what you deserve to get paid. I get that it's a risk, but like he just came off in that video like so like I don't know, that it rubbed me the wrong way. But because of course, as soon as they agreed to pay the players their share, he's playing and not another word about the health effects. Like he didn't care.
Yeah. And like we said, like the rest of the playoffs went pretty smoothly. Things were pretty good. There was a few points in the season where we were kind of worried, about the season maybe not going through. There was like the Marlins, the Cardinals.
The first week with the Marlins, immediately.
And then the Cardinals had like, what was it, like 6 games played when everyone else had like 20. And it was the Cardinals were like, oh God, we have to make up like every game possible.
The Cardinals played their last like 47 games in 38 days or something ridiculous.
It was stupid.
It was crazy.
Yeah. I'm hoping we were introduced to the professional 7-inning doubleheader, which is not something, I don't know about in the history of baseball. I don't think had ever been seen before. I know we did that in college sometimes, but that was pretty interesting to see. Just like these professional players kind of doing something that's a little more amateur.
I hated it.
Yeah, I didn't like it.
But I hated the runner on second more. That was terrible, because if you got through the first half like unscathed, if you were the home team, I remember specifically one Yankees game when like the first hitter like grounded out, moved the guy to third, and then Luke Voigt hit a sac fly, and it was like the least exciting walk off win I've ever seen in my life.
If that rule stays, I'll be really mad.
They're gonna keep all the bad ones and get rid of the DH because Manfred is a moron.
Yeah, he's like, oh, you guys like that? All right, get it out.
He's the opposite of Adam Silver. Like Rob Manfred and Adam Silver are the inverse of each other. Like Adam Silver just reads like NBA Reddit posts and just like literally is like, oh, you guys want players to tweet on the bench mid-game? Like, yeah, we'll look into it. And everyone's like, ooh, Adam Silver. And Rob Manfred's like, all right, everyone loves the DH. All right, 3 pitchers hitting every single game
now. A lineup just of pitchers.
Yeah, literally. That's what he's going to do.
Yeah. So regardless, we got the season in. Dodgers walked away victorious. Big season for Los Angeles with the Dodgers and the Lakers winning. I don't know if, like we said, like it was a Kobe year. So I don't know, maybe there was some type of magic there that the Dodgers and Lakers were both successful in being victorious. So maybe there was some magic there. But moving on to finally, we got the NFL in. I think people were kind of waiting to see what was happening with that based on what was happening with the MLB and the NBA and all the other sports coming back. For the most part, I think the NFL has done a pretty good job of, maintaining cases and everything. There's been a few outbreaks, but we've gotten most of the season, and obviously still TBD how the season ends. But, for the most part, we got a football season. I think a lot of sports fans, I should say, were, worried that might happen.
Yeah, I think it was obvious that the NFL was never going to let this get in the way. Like they had so long because, like we said, this kind of started right after the Super Bowl. So they literally had months to try and figure out like a protocol, anything. They pretty much essentially just did nothing. And they've kind of lucked out a little bit. I really do think to a degree they've probably had to cover up certain things or cases or aspects of it. I think they're probably not being completely transparent with us, but it shouldn't be a surprise that the league, who saw them make the movie Concussion, Will Smith starred in it, about like the lasting effects of CTE in the NFL, basically just said, damn, that's crazy to that. And they were going to act like coronavirus was going to stop the season. Like I knew there was zero chance Roger Goodell was going to cancel even one game due to coronavirus.
Yeah, and it's crazy how many games they've suspended, moved back, postponed, et cetera, et cetera. I feel like because I actually don't know all the NFL like protocols and everything. I feel like it's very internal. Like it's based on like your team. Like I feel like a lot of the responsibility is falling on like the coaches and like how they like kind of like navigate their team and everything. So I don't want to give. I'm sure Roger Goodell did a nice job, but I feel bad giving him any credit because I feel like him and Manfred are like buddies. Like they just got to be like on the wall of shame for the worst commissioners ever. Just people who don't know how to like you said, they don't have a pulse of like what like their fans and their players want. Like the people who are literally making and giving the money. They just have no clue what's going on.
It's still ridiculous to me that Ravens and Steelers game got pushed back 5 or 6 days from being prime time Thanksgiving. And then he subsequently made the Broncos play like the next week just without a quarterback, or the week before without a quarterback. Like he's
clearly
like,
has a favorite child. Yeah.
He's like, all right, literally. He's like, all right, Steelers Ravens, like we need to make sure this game like gets in and everyone's at full strength because everyone's gonna have eyes on this game. But it's like, all right, the Broncos game, it'll probably get shown on Red Zone like twice. Like no one really cares. Sure, practice squad, wide receiver, quarterback, fine.
Honestly, he probably thought, who cares if it's fair? It's more of a storyline than the Broncos would have beforehand. I feel like he honestly thinks like that. Like, okay, what is going to make the NFL more popular? Who cares if it's fair?
He probably infected that QB room with coronavirus on purpose, honestly. I wouldn't doubt it.
Conspiracy?
I think I'm just going to report that as fact.
All right. Right. Someone write that down. But yeah, so NFL is still kind of TBD and everything. Pretty much, that was pretty much it for the entire sports year in terms of everything that happened. It was definitely a very interesting year. I think people overcame a lot. Again, just focusing on the world of sports, obviously there is a whole different world of adversity that a lot of other people are going through right now. But this is a sports show, so we're going to keep it focused on that and not, kind of look at the measures through there. So on a more positive note, and to end things kind of in a funny way. We're going to look at the tweets of the year. Me and Nick kind of pulled like some of our favorite tweets that we saw throughout 2020, whether it be about Corona or about just like random things. I'll go first. It was from @Wolf on Wall Street, clever name. 100,000 people get the virus. Crickets. Tom Hanks gets the virus. And it was it was like that scared straight meme where it's like go 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 go.
Yes, yeah, that one was so good. That was amazing.
I actually want to tweet this on 3/3/2020. The official Twitter account tweeted, "Take care of each other." That's very cryptic.
Yeah,
I mean,
that's
I don't know.
cryptic as shit, Jack. What the fuck?
10 days before it kind of really like blew up and everything. Like, I don't know what's going on Twitter, but you definitely knew something.
That was one of the conspiracies. Was TikTok created the virus? Because think about how many people got hooked on TikTok this year. Listen, it was a great Twitter year. As someone who's addicted to Twitter myself, everyone inside just constantly tweeting about everything. It was a fantastic Twitter year. So if there's any victory to take out of 2020, I'll take that.
Yeah, Twitter went up. Twitter stock went up 100%.
Sure.
This is one I forgot about. I was going through our group chat, and it was Pitbull after being left out of the halftime show in Miami. It was John Cena. just like the pain. I mean that in hindsight that is ridiculous.
I still haven't forgiven them for that. Also, another tweet of the year was Michael Wilbon after the J-Lo and Shakira halftime show. And it was like, I don't know word for word, but it was like basically saying like best halftime show I've ever seen. He ended it with Lordy. And that is just oozing with sexual tension from Michael Wilbon there. You don't put Lordy into a tweet. You don't say it out loud. You don't even think the word Lordy. To type that out and tweet it was a bold move, God.
Yeah, as someone with like actual followers too.
Yeah,
like a lot of people are gonna see this.
I've been watching PTI since I was like 8, so to see Michael Wilbon type Lordy on Twitter was horrifying.
Yeah, that ruined the childhood immediately. This one I saw have been laughing at this for 10 hours, and it was it's the meme of like the guy, like the person standing in the corner, and it was Mrs. Doubtfire. They don't know I'm their dad.
That's one of my favorites. Yeah, that's a recent one. That meme template, I usually hate when like meme templates go viral like that because you just get so many like overplayed iterations of it. But that was actually a good one, and that was probably the best one that I've seen of that.
That was I love Mrs. Doubtfire. I don't know why it's a great movie, but that was just like that's how you meme. You know, that's the perfect way to use a meme. Mm-hmm. Those were all mine. Those are my like top 4 or 5 ones.
Let me look up some of mine. So I have 2 off the top of my head that pertain very much to 2020. I feel like there's definitely more. I'm on Twitter legitimately nonstop. I'm sure if any of you follow me, you see that I tweet way too much.
You're firing off about 100, 120 tweets a day.
Oh, a lot of them. All right, I can't find it. I'm just gonna. Oh, here's actually one. So I didn't make this graphic. I was the one that tweeted it out, so not to plug myself here. But the Yankees do their like keys to the game, like the Kia keys to the game every day, and it'll usually be just like classic, like Tanaka, get your splitter down or something like that. So this one was just don't get coronavirus, which I thought was pretty hilarious. It's like, all right, keys to the game, don't fucking get sick. So that was, I saw that graphic and I lost it. So that was a good one. Probably the tweet of the year, in my opinion. And it's one of those tweets where I can't even find the original at this point because it's just been like retweeted by so many different people so many different times. But I'll find it and try and put it in here. Was the coronavirus blew a 28-3 lead to racism.
Yeah. Bow down tweet of the year.
Just an outrageous tweet because that was when there was like a 2-week period in like the summer when the social justice stuff kind of started to go crazy, and for good reason. That was what was dominating headlines and grabbing people's attention, and it was almost like coronavirus didn't exist, even though it still very much did.
It took a backseat, yeah.
The coronavirus blowing a 28-3 lead to racism was the perfect way to describe those 2 weeks. So that was definitely it. And then the last one off the top of my head, as a big baseball fan, this was something that I really appreciated. I think this was around like April when this got tweeted out, but it was, we just need to get into coronavirus's bullpen. We can just get into the bullpen. That's when we'll be good. They've got a good starter, but they got nothing in the pen.
Yeah, well, you just got to break down their depth, and you're good.
Mm-hmm.
Oh my, yeah, I forgot about that tweet. That okay. I think that might be tweet of the year. If we have a vote, we should do that. We should start our own Hall of Fame for tweets and send out ballots every year. Like they do that. You need 75% to get in, and we'll make our own Twitter Hall of Fame.
I did one of those blogs. I put in the inaugural class already. I put in Kalani didn't score 81 and a couple others. And Dennis Smith Jr. saying his God-given talent was slanging this wood in his pants. So I put a couple in already.
All right, yeah, that was like the inaugural class, like you said, when Babe Ruth and everyone got in. Everyone else from now on has got to be voted in 75%.
Yep, exactly. I like that.
Yeah. So I don't know. That was 2020. If we missed any tweets, please put them in the comments or something, because I love looking at Twitter and funny tweets. So I will look at them.
Tweet them directly at us. Our handles are down here. So literally just tweet at me. I'm on 24/7. I turned off Twitter notifications thinking I would go on Twitter less, but now I just check Twitter more.
Well, now you got to check Twitter to see if you got notifications.
Yeah, how am I supposed to know if I got a notification? If I'm not, so I don't know. But
it's almost like what if they just sent you a notification? What if they just like kind of put something on your phone and it was just like, oh, like, hey, you got a notification.
I don't get why. Like I'm sitting home. Like I want to know if someone said something to me on Twitter, like sent me a message, liked one of my tweets, retweeted me. So like, why don't they just invent something where it pops up on your phone when everyone else
just like right here,
It would be literally on the lock screen. That would be perfect.
You don't need to open your phone.
How has this not been invented?
All right, we're gonna go work on this invention.
It's Exchangegram. Mine's completely different.
Yeah, it's completely different. No, that's Instagram. Sorry. So pretty unusual 2020. So just if there's anything that we missed, just comment it below or tweet at us. And Happy New Year. Stay safe.
Happy New Year. More below average content coming your guys' way in 2021, baby.
It will stay about as below average as it can get.
Blow the bell.